Decisive first round victories. Commentary from Phil Yates and Jeremy Jones.
A little bit of confidence always winning a match, trying to figure the breakout. And not a bad one here for Team Philippines. What looks like going to be possibly an early win on a 2-9 carom shot. And a shot like this, when you're such, in my opinion, a big favorite to make the 9, I kind of disregard the 2 so much. Don't get too involved with trying to play a two-way shot. I think it takes away from your accuracy on the 9, and it's just kind of one of these shots that if you don't make it, at least you went down probably playing the right shot. Well, that I didn't mind as much, Phil, because he actually tried to make both. It wasn't like a two-way as far as safety involved.
Yes, only the most minor of contacts on the 9, actually. But it's looking good.
Yeah, and Philippines, I saw them this morning. They got here early to practice. Oh, now watch the overrun. We've seen this a few times, and more than a few times, actually. Okay, so he's, you would call that short and tidy position, but definitely a little closer than he wanted.
Last night in the China-Chile match, one of the reasons China were pushed so close was that Wu Chia-ching, his positional play was below standard, and
extension call.
So many times he overhit the ball. So many times.
Yeah, and then really Liu kept him in it at the beginning, even though they fell behind. But some solid safety play by Liu behind some misposition play, as you mentioned, by Wu Chia-ching. But now on to the Philippines. A little thin 5-ball here, so he's got a choice. He can go 3 rails with a little top left English, which is, you know, probably usually the second choice. Usually when you can zigzag the cue ball back and forth, kind of over his hand right now, back out to the center of the table. Okay, that should be pretty good there. And this should get the Philippines out to a 1-0 lead and hold them serve. It's not going to hurt here, but normally you wouldn't want your partner on the rail, so a little bit probably overhit, I would say, which has been the norm. So again, Carlo, he'll just zigzag the cue ball right across his hand again, somewhere around there off the second rail, back towards the 8.
Efficient, this. From the viewpoint of the Albanians, not only efficient but also ominous. The Philippines take a 1-0 lead. I think it's fair to say, Jeremy, that watching Filipinos at the very highest level play pool is both a joy and a privilege. I always wonder what it must have been like over in the States when the first wave of Filipinos arrived, what the impact must have been. The likes of Santos Sambajan and Efren Reyes, they certainly stirred it up.
Yeah, well, there's some legendary stories just from my neck of the woods in Houston, Texas. Efren Reyes coming from the Philippines, but portraying to be a Hispanic player from somewhere south of San Antonio. The name was Cesar Morales. A funny story there at Red's Billiards, and a big legendary place in Houston where all the greats from around the U.S. played. Efren made a little run in the biggest tournament in the country at the time besides the U.S. Open. I think what I heard was he was in the Final Four, and he went up to Red Walling, hence the name Reds. another great man in pool, and said to Mr. Walling, because he was worried about getting
Rack
paid.
number 2,
So he told him,
Albania to break.
my name isn't
trailing
really Cesar
1 match to
Morales.
0.
And so I think Red had already kind of started to figure out that he wasn't his Mexican player, and so Red had told him that, hey, no problem, you'll still get your money, no worries.
Please, from now on, don't commentate, just tell stories. Fantastic. Eklent Kaçi breaking off in rack number 2, trying to equalise.
Well, a nice spread there, making 2 balls and dressed up perfectly on the 2 ball.
Just to clean things up with that Filipino story, I think one of the early pioneers as well, of course, was Jose Perica.
Yeah, always back home when he got introduced, he was the leader of the invasion, the first one as far as the top players to come over. There were a few before him, but not the names like Jose Perica or Efren Reyes. And I think this is important for Albania to get maybe a couple easy starters to settle. And we saw Kaçi's partner play really well in the first match, but we don't know if that's going to happen always. So these first couple to get started here in rack 2, I think very important for Albania.
Besar Spahiu is a member of the Albanian police force, and he was saying after his first match that the good thing is for him, although he's on leave, that leave will be extended indefinitely while he's still involved here, so doesn't have to worry about going back to lay down the law in his native country, just laying down the law on this table. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and as I heard it, not only has extended vacation and play here as they move forward in the tournament, but as he does better in pool period, he'll get more openings and more chances to go compete. Pretty sweet. A little funny here though, Phil. He's gotten a little bit on the wrong side of the 6, so he may have to draw this cue ball back towards the 8, so that when you have to go towards another ball, it's a little bit dangerous feeling.
Besar isn't the only law enforcement officer who's done well at Q Sports in the world of snooker. The 6 times world champion Ray Reardon, he was a policeman for quite some time.
Well, we talked about Kaçi. He struggled a few times in the first match, but I'll tell you, I watched him practice a little this morning. His timing looked better, and right here in the first rack, that little nice shot from the 4 to the 5, and then that little drawing the cue ball back behind the 8 from the 6 to the 7. I really like the look of the timing, and if that's any suggestion on what we're going to see, we're going to have a close match here in our opening day 4.
And Besar, the unknown quantity in this Albanian team, is looking good as he did in the first match, and that's a real plus for the Albanians, who are now back on level terms at 1-1.
Welcome back to the second round of the 2019 World Cup of Pool, where the Philippines and Albania are locked together at 1-1, but the third produced daylight. The Philippines broke, but with no clear advantage, safety play looks set to follow until a moment of magic from the Albanians. That was enough to see them clear and take the lead. This is now the fourth. Commentary from Phil Yates and Jeremy Jones.
Well, again, just the perfect speed to get a nice spread. Now, I'm not sure if the 8 got in the way. It looks like, well, I think he's offensive here. Yeah, he's immediately looking at the 5 to see if it goes. You can see he just needs to stop his ball, it looks like, on the 2 to hold for the 3. So no reason not to take a 3-1 lead here for Albania.
the looped bridge we saw there from Kaçi, which is used in pool an awful lot, not so much in snooker or billiards.
Yeah, it's actually a great tool in 9-ball pool and pocket billiards. Something pretty essential. Even the guys that changed over from snooker, and ladies, Allison Fisher, Darren Appleton, they all knew they had to develop a closed bridge. It's all about cue ball movement from distance usually. Or normally if you're cueing on the bottom half of the ball. Big shot here, little distance on the 4, fairly straight.
And there's the loop we were talking about.
He's gotten him perfect on the 5, though. If you're going to shoot to a half a pocket, you don't want to have to cut it much. You want to be kind of looking straight at where you want to hit.
Extension called.
And you can see the position is easy.
Metaphorically, the Albanians trying to keep the Filipinos out of the loop.
Well, from that angle, actually a little fortunate catching the 7 and the 5 still going in. If he catches the 7 any thicker, I think he misses the 5. But nevertheless, again, no reason not to take a 3-1 lead here. One thing about Albania so far, not only they look solid, but the break. I love the way the break is looking.
The coefficient for success in the World Cup has always been how good is the number 2 in the team. And that's what I like about these two. Spahiu playing beautifully.
And you might say that Kaçi kind of feeding off of that in a sense, because he definitely looks better this match than he did in the opening match.
Albania lead the Philippines 3-1, and for the second time out of 2 they break and run. You can't do better than that. Worried expressions on the faces of the Filipinos, and with every justification, Jeremy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't call it on the ropes yet, but they were definitely on the ropes in round 1, narrowly winning a 7-6 victory. They don't want to fall any more short, I'll tell you. Now they're going to break off here in game 5. So early in this match, I believe another big game for a trailing team.
It's all very different for the Filipinos in the last 16 of this year's World Cup.
And with a run out behind it and then a break and run, and now the Philippines find themselves down 3-1. But again, they're breaking here, so they can apply the pressure to Albania. They'd love to break and run, but the main thing is get the win here. And it seems like all the teams are just exclusively trying to play the 1 on the break, and they're all getting better at it. Really nice timing on the break that time. You see a nice spread.
Early in tournaments, the break can be a mystery, but it's very quickly solved.
Okay, I guess he feels like he can soft spin this, or is he going to go back and forth? Okay, great shot. Using maximum right English to try and contact the 2 as heavy as possible, making it easier to hold the cue ball for the 3. Now again, similar shot that Carlo's played already. He'll probably zigzag the cue ball back and forth. Again, right over his hand for the 4 in the upper right hand corner. Oh, okay, he played it a little lighter. Is he going to get on the 50-yard line? Should be okay. There's some concern from the 6 to the 7, though, Phil.
Yes, and in a match of this quality, if you do make a mistake, quite often it's magnified.
Extension called.
Well, especially the way it looks like Team Albania is set to play here in this second round match. All second round matches today and here in day 4. Okay, great stroke there. Getting a lot out of the cue ball. This is gonna be a little funny here, because the angle is telling him he's drawn on top of the 7, which is what he may have to do anyways. Just take a chance at a little bump on the 7, maybe a bump into the 9 as well. So when you shoot a shot like this, you're probably going to kind of try to slow draw it back. That way nothing really bad happens, some type of snooker. You don't want to let it fly. Oh, he put a little more on it, but I like that pace. It would have been pretty unlucky for something bad to happen. Certainly didn't want to run into that 8. It turned out okay, but a bit fortunate. And the Philippines set up to get out here in the 5th game, and exactly what they needed.
Well, we've seen a few 9 balls missed already in this tournament. This most certainly is not a certainty.
Well, it's all about the cue ball, Phil. As the cue ball going towards that side pocket, he's got to get through this, hit before the side.
Nicely done. Well, a very good standard here. We've had 5 racks played, 4 break-in run-outs, and the Albanians' lead is trimmed to 3-2.
Welcome back to the World Cup of Pool from the Morningside Arena in Leicester, where the Philippines are chasing a place in the quarter-finals. They face Albania, who are fighting hard for their moment of glory. They lead by a single rack in the early stages. This is now the 6th. Commentary from Jeremy Jones and Phil Yates.
Carlo Biado, 35 years of age. His best in the World Cup of Pool is a run to the quarter-finals. They were there last year. And beating Czech Republic in the first round 7-6 was a major achievement, because the Czechs were 6-5 up. Remarkably, the Czechs broke off in that match 6 times and had 6 dry breaks. So how did they get so close to the Filipinos? That's what you have to ask yourself. Had they won, it would have been one of the most remarkable results, I think, in this tournament's storied history.
Well, it would have been a big upset, but if they would have won and narrowly lost at 7-6 after 6 dry breaks, would have been pretty amazing, that's for sure. Now Kaçi had a nice break off in his opening game
Albania
to break. Now here in game 6,
3 racks
another
to
huge
2.
opportunity for Albania to stretch this lead.
Absolutely right, Jeremy. He broke off in the second rack, and swiftly the Albanians were back on level terms. This time, he'd like to restore that 2-rack advantage.
Well, he's missed the one on the side and therefore broke dry, and now the Philippines with a nice shot on the 1. You can see the 2 near. So a great opportunity to level this match at 3. Don't really see a whole lot of issues. Of course, there's work to do. But anytime you get those first 2, 3, 4 balls next to each other at this level, you got to figure they're going to run out. And you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4 right on that end of the table. So don't do anything fancy. Just keep it. Ooh, we got him dead elevated here. Shouldn't be a problem because it's a short shot. But it's sitting right in between to where he certainly doesn't want to hit it hard and go back and forth being elevated. But sometimes when you hit it soft, could get a bit of a kick. And that's the one I was talking about. You see how heavy it caught to the hole, and that's what happens when you have to hit the ball soft and you're hitting down on it. The cue ball tends to grab the object ball a little bit more. And I tell you, that one might have stood up if it was a little later in the day.
We'll give him the 4. If they sort out 5 to 6, well then, it looks like being tied up. But it's a big if now because they've dropped 2 straight.
Yeah, well, I probably think they didn't want to flirt with coming across the table too much anyways. They would have liked a little bit of angle just to get a little bit closer to the 6. But I think they would have shot it from a... I would go ahead and just take it from right there. Yeah, Carlo's going to tell him this is fine for me. Draw it back 4 or 5 inches.
Extension called.
Let me just shoot the 6 and go back and forth for the 7. So you should just pinch this back a little bit. Yeah, that's perfect. They would have liked to have had an angle to go towards the 6 and do the same thing just to get another foot closer, but that shouldn't be a problem for Carlo. He's already shot a very similar shot to this 2 times in the match. So a little low right English. Could come 2 rails for the corner or the side. Kind of what he prefers. Okay, watch out. That might get on top. Oh, nice. It checked nicely. Boy, what a partner to have.
A match thus far in which mistakes have been virtually eliminated. Kaçi broke dry, left the 1. The Filipinos then went about their business. It is 3-3 and a very impressive performance, one has to say, from all 4 players out there.
Rack number 7, Philippines to break. 3 racks all.
In terms of the way they've played, the Filipinos have to be pleased. If they aren't, there's something wrong, because they've looked sharp, they've looked confident. Having said that, as Jeffrey De Luna breaks off in this 7th rack of this last 16 match in the Bed Victor World Cup of Pool, the Philippines are only on level terms with Albania, and we're now deep into the contest. 3-3 it is.
Well, in Albania's opening match, you could definitely say that Russia underperformed by quite some margin, you might say. And Besar played very solid. So a little different story here. Both teams playing exceptional pool so far. Both games that have been kind of taken away from the other. It's been a jump shot and 1 dry break is all now. Big shot on the 1, elevated over the 6. He's going to try and just come straight across. The key to here is just don't overhit it. Just a nice, clean, medium speed is enough. Nice shot.
Yes, Russia were staggeringly poor, weren't they, considering the personnel on show. A little different when you're coming up against the Filipinos.
And Russia, Fedor Gors, neither guy played their game, that's for sure, and both of them would tell you so. Fedor had taken to a bit ill back home before this and felt he was 100%, but We just didn't get to see it in that first match. Hey, that's got to slow down a little bit. That's got to slow down a little bit, and it's not gonna. And that's where you don't worry about close so much. You really have to understand that Jeffrey De Luna can handle 2 feet away. I understand it's still one that you still feel like over and over again, man, how's it keep going? But if you're watching out the matches, if you're playing out there, it happens time and time again. You have to realize to guard against it, Phil.
Extension called.
And there's a common denominator. That cue ball just keeps rolling and rolling. The surface is so fast. And that's something you've got to build into the equation.
Yeah, you have to be very conscious of it. You have to learn from it. And it's a very common thing when it comes to the TV matches. The table bed is almost always going to be faster than what you think, faster than what you're used to. But really, in my opinion, no excuses to continually do it.
Well, pretty much maximum distance here between
Extension
cue ball and
called.
object ball.
Well, he's got a chip shot here to where he could chip the left side of the 5 and then run the cue ball a couple rails back and use some distance. That's about the only thing I see besides an offensive shot. Well, that's asking for a lot right there to try and. He wanted to hit it thicker and let it come up to maybe leave a bank shot at most, but I kind of like chipping that ball and trying to use some distance on the 5 ball. At least the 6 is down table, and they got probably going to have to make a long shot and move the cue ball quite some ways. And he's still got to come on one here, even though the 5's over the pocket. He's got to dig on the cue ball. Oh wow, great effort there.
Now that's when you're glad the table's fast and responsive, because on a sluggish table to get that much action wouldn't be quite as easy as he made it look.
Well, that's for sure, and he didn't even go 100%. That was only about 60%. But the thing is, he kept the tip exactly where he wanted. Good timing with the stroke. Got really the most out of the cue ball. Jeffrey De Luna with a fairly routine 9 ball. Nothing routine in this setting, that's for sure. We've seen a few 9s missed.
The Philippines were 1-0 up, 3-1 down, and now they're back on the plus side of the ledger. The scoreline reads 4-3.
Welcome back to the round 2 encounter between the Philippines and Albania. The 8th rack between these two produced a dry break. The push was inconclusive and the opening came to the Philippines to make it 5-3. In the 9th, the Philippines broke, but a miss on the 2 looked to be the chance Albania needed, but they too fluffed their lines, making it 6-3. In the 10th, though, the Albanians broke and ran the rack out. It's now 6-4. Commentary from Jeremy Jones and Phil Yates.
Now here we have a dry break. Now are they going to come away with a shot? No, and I think he may. Speaking of decisions, I think they may have to just go ahead and go for this jump.
Well, early in the previous rack, the Albanians tried to make something happen with a combination that was questionable. Now will they continue to think about attack?
Well, another reason that helps this decision is where do you roll out against this Filipino teams? You can't roll out to an easier jump. You probably can't let them have this jump. You got to just bury it if you're Clint Kaçi.
Well, there's a supposed heat wave hitting the UK at the moment, but we're still seeing lots of jumpers.
Extension call.
Bit of a funny shot here, though. I wouldn't try to hold for the angle here. I would go ahead and draw all the way back across, trying to get more angle on the 3 to move the cue ball in between the 8 and 9. If he tries to hold for straighter in to get on the 3 to get on the 4, he could fall funny to where he's going into the 8 with the cue ball. So a pretty smart decision recognizing that by Besar, and now he's left him enough angle to move the cue ball in between the 8 and 9, a couple rails around, somewhat in the position it's in now. That little rub on the 6 really helped the cue ball. I'm not saying it would have been totally out of line, but it would have been much tougher. That's for certain. Phil, if you pay attention to Besar and just his mannerisms and everything, he just can't wait to shoot. It's a really refreshing thing to see a young man that's not been in this position very often.
Really good observation, Jeremy, and in all sport you see this. Certain people have the makeup where they wilt under pressure, others embrace it, and he's the latter.
Now, is that enough to move the cue ball down low for the 8? I think it is, but he's going to have to add a little speed here, which power is definitely nothing Kaçi is lacking. Just a little bit of a punch, kind of let it slowly float down towards the 8.
And remember, they break next. Albania refusing. I can't see one on the
Trailing
horizon.
6 racks to 5.
No, pretty hard. Not very often you'll see it even in a winter break format, but an alternate break format with the guys ready, prepared to play. You can't imagine it. I don't think we're going to see it.
What about Besar's break?
Well, we saw the corner ball there, which is something we haven't seen very, very often. But what a nice starter on the 1 to take us possibly to a 6-6 situation. Well, here again, the 2, you can see it. It has the available corner. You're going to have to shoot it with probably a little bit of angle. So main thing is here, don't try to do too much. Your partner Besar pretty much making everything from wherever it lays. So again, just get the run started if you're Kaçi. Get the cue ball somewhere in the vicinity it's in now, maybe a little closer to the 2 ball, but no chances. Don't take any chances. Okay, that looks perfect.
Someone in the audience is getting very animated, clapping loudly for the most routine shots.
Well, I think what we have is some Albanian fans that may not know the game of pocket billiards so well, but they're diehard Albanians. So definitely a one-sided cheer.
Extension call.
Again, you can play the 3 in the side. You can fall over for the other side pocket. Don't take any chances here trying to move the cue ball too much. It looks like he could follow it with top English and go by the 7, back up in between the 7-9 if he wanted. I think I would wrap the cue ball around the 9 for the 3 in the side myself. Okay, nice shot. He had plenty of room to get by it. Now he's coming through a little bit of a tight position, but Kaçi should be able to handle this no problem. This is just a little bit of center with a little bit of left. He'll have to punch the ball a little bit just to get the movement going. He should come out 2 rails right by the 8, kind of on the path of where the cue ball's at now.
Sorry.
We can obviously see it's all the work in this rack, even though they've done a nice job through the first 4 balls, is 3 balls, excuse me, is from the 6 to the 7. Pretty interested to see how they play this. Most likely it's going to be from the 6 to the 7 with the top inside English 3 rails. I think he's looking to see if this ball's froze. This is interesting to me. I don't believe he's going to draw it. The one thing he has to do is avoid the 8. The 8's a big ball going 3 rails here. I'm not saying it's the worst thing if he hits it, but it could affect position on the 7. Yeah, and that's what I would have been worried about, Phil. I would have been worried about that 8. It just stood right in the way of that 3-rail path.
You called it from the moment the shot was on. You just knew that could be the stumbling block.
And I'm not sure that Kaçi really had a choice. He could have got by it, but then also just having enough speed to get to the back rail. Is this going to go in? It's going to be a little hard. So the Philippines is going to have their opportunity. They're not going to have an easy shot just because the cue ball. Now, in my opinion, I think Jeffrey should just roll this ball in and let Carlo take a little bit longer shot. I don't like the elevating. Now, I don't want to dead roll it either. You want to maybe go to the head string and just let your incredibly talented partner knock one in from a little distance.
A hair-raising moment.
Extension called.
He's a great potter. That's the plus. The negative, he's a very excitable character. That's the negative.
Well, he's looking at the 7 in the side, and that looks like a dangerous shot to me. Oh, he's cutting the 7 in the side with draw, so he's trying to take an easier shot. But I think he's actually turning this into a tougher shot. Wow, what a great shot.
Thank
that
you.
was. Perfect, almost perfect position.
He said thank you because there was no applause at all for what was
Can you try and sit
perhaps
still, please, sir?
the shot of the contest. I think the word perhaps is redundant there. It was, considering the context in which it was played, the shot of the match. The Albanian fans sitting silently. And that's because their team have been muted themselves. It was a fine performance from Eklent Kaçi and Besar Spahiu, but in the end the Filipinos come through another close shave. It was 7-6 in the first round, it's 7-5 here. They're into the quarterfinals.